Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, and Tuesday the 17th. That means I have a workshop today at 9 a.m. So I decided I'd come on and do the Tao of the day nice and early. Are you familiar with the Tao of the day? If not, why don't you join me anyway? I'm going to ask you to pick a number between 1 and 81. That's it. That's all you have to do. And then everything else gets built from there. Why 1 and 81? Because there are 81 verses in the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient text that really I like to translate it as the canon of reason, is the collection of texts on how to live a reasonable life. And that is what we're here to help everybody do and help me understand a little bit more all the time. How can I live a more reasonable life? And what does it mean to live a reasonable life? As far as I'm concerned, it means not asking others to change, not asking the world to change, not asking life to change for you, but you seeing it as perfect right now as it is. That's reasonable. That's as reasonable as we can get, is to just be like, this thing that's happening right now is awesome. Let me embrace it. Even if you have, like ideas that it sucks, or ideas that it's horrible, or ideas that you want it a different way, to really embrace that this right now is what it is, far out. That's what we're here to do. So that is what It's how I understand the Tao Te Ching. It's an ancient text, like I said, written 600 BCE. I believe I said that. Written 600 BCE by Lao Tzu. There's all sorts of different stories and stuff. Like people say he was a librarian. I believe he was an accountant. But whatever, doesn't matter. The history never matters, right? That's just another story. What matters is what you get out of this right now. Yes, it might have. The Tao Te Ching may have been something that was like written and saved and all of these things, sure. But once again, in order to live a reasonable life, we have to get rid of all those preconcepts, those preconceived ideas of what it is and what's right and what's wrong. And we got to be here right now and like read what we read and take it for what it is. Today, since nobody's coming up right now, I'm going to start with number 33. It's just calling out to me, so I'm going to go ahead and start with that. And all right, so knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. If you realize that you have enough, you are truly rich. If you stay in the center and embrace death with your whole heart, you will endure forever. So this is really a beautiful one for me. I started reading it and started thinking, huh. I wonder, like, is this the right one? Like, like I always like to throw things. I always like to question sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, oh, like I don't know what number to pick, and then I pick a number, and I'm like, oh, this one's not for me. Let's get one that I don't read all the time and whatnot. And really, what I like to, I like that I just stick with it anyway, because it's important to be here now and to understand that this is where I'm at, and this is what it's showing to me. I'm actually going to go ahead and read a different translation, just because it's possible for me to do that. It's a short one, right? And I'm going to read a different translation because that's Stephen Mitchell. Stephen Mitchell's my buddy. He's the Dow. He's I believe it's Brene Brown's partner. So he who knows men is wise. He who knows himself can see clearly. Whoa, me and seeing clearly is a big deal. Like when I talk about not living under the influence of other people, places, and things, it's always about moving towards a space of seeing clearly. I have a workshop happening today, and if anybody wants to join, definitely DM me over on Instagram. But at the core of, I had someone ask me about, like, what does it mean to how can I build more confidence? And in order to build more confidence, you have to know yourself. You have to be able to know who you are, and that means seeing clearly. He who conquers men has strength. He who conquers himself has power. That's like, as someone who's coming out of addiction, understand that Conquering yourself means getting over all of that stuff that draws you in, all of those things that are not you, because your body wants things, like your mind can overcome those things, but that takes true power. You can't you can't lose 100 pounds if you don't have that power, if you haven't conquered yourself. Because yourself, like, you have that extra weight, you have those addictions, you have all of those things in your life because you're hurting somewhere. And that hurting has come from living under the influence, whether that's living under the influence, it's not living under the influence of drugs and alcohol, it's living under the influence of other people, thinking that you're not enough and that you need these drugs in order to be more. You need this food in order to feel comfortable. You need a relationship in order to feel love. But when you conquer yourself, when you say, I am here, I am connected to all things, I am one with all things, that's true power. Nothing will get over you then. Like, that is the essence of who you are, is that you are all things. He who knows that he has enough is rich. He who acts with energy has a strong will. He who fails not to find the self shall endure. He who fails not to find the self shall endure. He who dies but does not perish shall endure forever. So I don't know if you know this, but I am currently reading, I didn't mention it, so I don't know why you would, but this is the Isabel Mears version, and this is always one that always is just always writes things in a way that makes me feel a little strapped for understanding. He who fails not to find the self shall endure. And if you stay in the center and embrace death with your whole heart, you will endure forever, is how Stephen Mitchell puts it. And so that's an interesting way of putting it. He who fails not to find the self shall endure. He who dies but does not perish shall endure forever. When I say self in this, he who fails not to find the self, it's a capital S, self, right? So that is the true self, I would assume, right? That is the God that is within each of us. He who fails not to find the self. So if you fail not to find the self, you have found the self, shall endure. He who dies but does not perish. When you die to your body, but have found self, the full self, the God self, you shall endure. Hmm. Yeah, I can see that. But that's that double negative. He who fails not to find. If you fail not to find the self, then you have found the self and you shall endure. Of course. That is beautiful. He who knows many is wise. He who knows himself can see clearly. You know, we live in this world of intellect, and I've been intrigued by intellect my whole life, just because, like, there's so much within intellect. There's so much out there in the world. I remember thinking, and I don't know if this is true, like, I mean, it had to have been true at some point, that there was a point in time in which everything that was written could have been read. Everything that was ever written could have been read in a lifetime. You One would find it difficult, I think, today to dedicate one's life to reading and collecting all of the knowledge of human existence and be able to get through it in a lifetime. I can't imagine that there would be a person, or even, I don't know how many generations it would take to read everything, but whatever. And whatever that is, we have to also now recognize that all of this is existing in on the internet as well. So all of the stuff that's ever been written, like, we have to be doubling. Like, I'm willing to bet that we, like, between the beginning of time and the beginning of the internet, Like, and then and then it's like in 10 years we doubled the amount of information that was written and published. So there is enough information out there for people to find intellectually any bit of information they want. They can find intellectually that up is down and left is right and all of these things. They can find intellectually that whatever they want right now, whatever it is they would prefer to believe, they can find the truth of. But that's because there's so much that's been written, and as soon as you write it down, it ceases to be truth. It ceases once you write something down, right? So this first line, he who knows men is wise. And what I mean by he who knows men, of course, is he who knows, he who has knowledge is wise. He who has knowledge of what is wise, right? But the thing is he who knows himself can see clearly. So it's not about being wise, is it? Like, which would you prefer to have? Would you prefer to be wise or to see clearly? See, I think I see clearly. I'm not interested. Like, yeah, okay, maybe I'm wise, or maybe I've been called wise by people. But the reason that I can be seen as wise isn't because I have all of this information, because I'm so well read. Isn't because I've picked up information, because I passed tests. Isn't because it's not because like I'm not here preaching all this because I know an answer by any stretch of the imagination. I don't know anything, but I can see clearly. And that's such an important aspect of how we're going to progress as a species, as individuals. I have the Recover Yourself workshop today, and the Recover Yourself workshop doesn't give you answers, but it helps you see clearly. It helps you see yourself and your life outside or apart from the influence that has brought you here. So often we live under the influence of our parents and then teachers and all of those people and all of those individuals that we have run across, right? Like, you probably think sometimes about somebody else when you're making a decision. What are they going to think when I make this decision? What's going to happen when this decision gets made and that person finds out? We hide. I was hosting a clubhouse room for this men's emotional support network I'm a part of. And I couldn't help but realize that one of the people that is a leader in the group couldn't tell me where he hides. Even if it's like, I hide because I know that I have a diet and I tout that diet and I say this diet keeps me healthy and all of that. But I also, like yesterday when I went for a walk, before I went for that walk, I just had a desire to eat a cookie. And so I grabbed a cookie and I ate a cookie. I mean, it was a small cookie. It's not like a big cookie or anything like that. I just ate a cookie. Um, but that's also something that I don't want people to know in my mind. So, what's wonderful is that I can come here and do the old telling myself. I can come out and I can say, you know what, I ate a cookie. I'm not perfect. I want you to think I'm perfect. Yes. But I'm also very, very, like, I don't want you to think I'm perfect to the degree that, like, you think that I am. Like, I want you to know that I'm human and I do this stuff. Yeah, sure. I ate a cookie yesterday and I went for a walk and I justified eating a cookie because I was about to go for a walk, right? That's seeing clearly, at least a little bit. Seeing clearly that, you know what, I'm eating this and I'm kind of ashamed about it, but I'm going to hold on to it. I'm going to make this choice and I'm making it with my eyes wide open. Why am I making it with my eyes wide open? So that I can see clearly, so that I can see myself. He who knows men is wise. He who knows himself can see clearly. When I know men, meaning I know the ideas that men hold, I know the concepts that men hold, I can say, oh, well, I know what men want. Men, not gender wise, but people, he who knows others is wise. He who knows others is wise. So if I know others, then I know what they're going to respect. They're going to respect that I medicate my MS with my diet. And I'm going to tout that. And I'm going to talk about that. And I'm going to tell you how wonderful it is that I medicate. And I'm not going to be like, well, I ate a cookie yesterday. Because eating a cookie is not going to be a thing that people can respect. But you know what? It is a thing that I did. And it's a thing that I need to respect. Because if I don't respect it, then I'm going to do it again and again and again and again. And I'm going to hide and I'm not going to conquer myself. And that's what we get to later, right? He who conquers himself has power. And so he who knows men is wise. He who conquers men has strength. So that's the thing. Like if I know you and I know what you want to hear, I give you what you want to hear and I gain strength over you. I gain strength over you. And when I gain strength over you, then I have this, I have this thing. Right? I have this power. But it's not real power. It's just perceived power because I have influenced you into thinking that I'm something maybe I'm not, or because I have influenced you into, overesteeming me because of what I do. He who knows men is wise. He who knows himself can see clearly. I can see clearly that I ate a cookie and that there was shame there, and I can grow from that. If I never saw that, because, oh, well, what's more important is that you just know that I didn't eat a cookie, right? And this is all very, like, of course, some of you might be dealing with like smoking crack. Some of you might be dealing with, you know, fentanyl addiction. Some of you might be dealing with alcohol, or some of you might be dealing with food in other ways, or anything. But when you know men, right? He who knows men is wise. And that's what we get on the internet so much today, right? All of the ads are about you got to get people to want, what you have so that they can pay you, and advertisements and all of these things. And so this is all about knowing others. And when we know others, we're wise, and we get all this attention, and we can get like support, we can get all of these things. But if you know yourself, you can see clearly. And that's the important thing about living life, right? Seeing clearly, seeing who you are, where you're going, and what you're doing, so that you can be here now and be in this space and love yourself as you are. He who conquers men, and how do you conquer men? Well, like as all of this lays out, you can conquer men by lying to them, and you can conquer men by trying to use your wisdom, trying to use that which he who knows men is wise, and you can conquer men by like manipulating them because you know them, you can tell them what's up, and they'll look up to you and be like, oh my god, how do you know all those answers? How do you know that, dot dot dot? Because you know them, you know their situation. And so many of the people around us right now, people who claim to have your answer, like, can do a little smoke and mirrors trick and get you to get individuals to follow you, or get individuals to follow them. But he who conquers himself has power. And that is when you can conquer your own fear, when you can conquer your own um, when you can, it's interesting, like Cece, who went to one of my workshops, just happened to mention that, she has been doing kudos here on wisdom in the evenings. I don't know if you've run across that, but she posted the other day on Instagram that like she was a nervous wreck when she started doing those, and that means she conquered herself. She was just like, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. And she got over her fear. She got over all of her stuff, and she got over everything because she wasn't trying to conquer others. She needed to conquer herself. And she stepped up and did her work. And because she did her work, she's better off, and so are we. And that's the thing. Like, that's power. Now, is she going to, like, what is her benefit? Like, what's going to happen? That's not about that. It is about her doing it and conquering or getting over her own fear, getting over her own stuff. That's the important work, is to be able to be you right now as you are. And this is like this as happens to all go into, the fact that I do have a workshop today, and I would love for you guys to join me. Check out the links in my bio. But that is great work, right? When you can conquer yourself and when you don't have to live under the influence of what other people think, when you don't have to live under the influence of trying to get something over on someone else. How often do have you in how often, like, I can think about how often have I in my life tried to manipulate what other people think because I either omitted things or I wasn't telling whole truths or whatever. And as soon as we do that, we're not living honestly. As soon as we do that, we're living and we're giving up a lot of energy. Um, and that's why he who conquers men has strength. Yeah, yeah, we have strength, but that strength will eventually fail us. If you've ever tried to do, like leg day when you go to the gym, right? Like squats and squats and squats and lifts and all of these things, and eventually your strength is going to give out. But he who conquers himself has power, and that power is something deep within us. He who knows that he has enough is rich. And you do, you have enough right here, right now. He who acts with energy has a strong will. He who knows that he has enough is rich. He who acts with energy has a strong will. I look at that and I'm going to riff on this a bit, like the idea that, like, he who acts with energy, energy is something that, energy, like strength, can fail you. And so I look at will as being something that can fail you as well. It's not like willpower, right? The ability to like yield your will or like wield your will is, I always say, like, if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you wake up with a little bit of hunger and have to pee or something and you have to pass the kitchen, and in the refrigerator there's chocolate cake. I don't care how much will you have, you're going to eat a piece of chocolate cake. Maybe not a whole piece. Maybe you'll take a little slice, but you're going to eat chocolate cake. You're going to eat chocolate cake if you know there's chocolate cake in there, have a little hunger, and are going to the bathroom at 2 in the morning, because you do not have the will to say no to that at 2 in the morning. You don't. Like, that's the problem. The problem with will is that it will fail you. And if you're acting with energy, when you don't have energy, you lose your will. Right? He who acts with energy has a strong will. Yeah. But if you lose that energy, I think your will be weak. Maybe that's not what Isabel Mears is trying to allude to, right? Maybe she's saying if you act with energy, like the deep, like energy of the universe, you have a strong will and you can conquer yourself, right? That's the idea. When you conquer yourself, your will grows, and that's true. That's true. I'm not exactly sure how she's referencing these words, right? So energy, will, these things have to be deciphered by us individually. And because I'm looking at this, I want to be like, yes, you have a strong will, but just like strong relates to strength, right? He who conquers men has strength. That strength can be stripped of us, right? Our strength can fail us. So strong will can fail us as well. He knows when he knows he has enough, he is rich. When you are here present, know you have enough. And you don't need to act with energy because everything happens around you. And you don't even need will. So you've conquered yourself. And so you don't have to think about willpower. You don't have to think about doing things that aren't coming natural. He who fails not to find self shall endure. See, this is that double negative, right? He who fails not to find self. So he who finds self shall endure. He who finds self, capital S self, shall endure. When you find that true self within you, you will endure. Every time. He who dies but does not perish shall endure forever. And that's the that's the kicker, and this is one of these things. Like, I love when the Tao references dying, because the person you are today is not the person you were yesterday. The person you are right now, like whether you've had a divorce, that's a death. Graduating high school and moving on into, like college, like that's a death. Like the death of your identity, the death of who you thought you were at some point. The death of all of that is there, but you don't perish, right? You don't perish. You die, but you don't perish, and you shall endure forever. You shall endure forever. Keep looking at that, and it's like when you're able to continue to die to yourself, to your identity, like you continue to grow, you continue to, you're not holding on to anything. The moment you try and hold on to something, that's the moment that you start to perish. That's the moment that you start to actually cease to be relevant. The minute you think you know what's right is the moment you cease to be relevant. The Tao also claims in one of them, under the Stephen Mitchell translation, um, knowing is a disease. First recognize that you're sick, and then you can move towards health. He who dies but does not perish shall endure forever. And so, like, if you know who you are, if you know what to do, if you know what's going to happen, if you're out there manifesting your life's dreams, you have ceased to become relevant to the moment. The moment is going to reveal itself to you. And if you can know yourself, you'll be able to see clearly. And if you can conquer yourself and conquer all of those identities, you'll truly have power in this moment as the universe unfolds in front of you. When you know that you have enough, you will be rich in this moment, rich in every way. And when you find yourself, you find your capital self, when you recover yourself, you will endure. If you allow yourself to die, but not perish, allow this identity to die, allow the identity of who you are, allow yourself to die as a father, allow yourself to die as a son, allow yourself to die as a daughter, or a doctor, allow yourself to die as everything, and just be here as you are, without any of that identity, without any of that identity. So many of us wake up and the first thing we do is remind ourselves of who we are. How wonderful. This is who we are. We look around and we remind ourselves of where we are and what we're doing, and we don't get outside of that. We never get outside of that. He who knows himself, he who conquers himself has power. He who knows himself can see clearly. You can open your eyes in the morning and see clearly that this is a whole new universe. This is a whole new day. Yes, like your past is here, but you don't have to use it as fact. You don't have to hold on to it as if it's real. That's knowing men, right? He who knows men is wise. He who knows men, meaning he who has information, is wise. You have information about who you were yesterday, and how much of your day today has already been dictated by yesterday. And if you have existed, and if you are building today from yesterday, well, then you're not seeing clearly. But when you know yourself, you can see clearly. When you know who you are, you can see clearly. When you can open yourself up and be present and be clear, that's power. That's wealth. And you will endure. Even if that which you believed was you isn't going to. If you hold on to one specific idea of who you are, that is going to die. that is going to die. Like everything, all of the identity that you hold about who you are is going to die. But when you can die and not perish, then you will be able to endure forever. Why does that say that? It's because you are constantly ebbing and flowing with this moment. And every time we hold on to a singular identity, when we hold on to a singular thought, when we hold on to something that we think is true and is sustaining or is going to be forever, well, that's when we start to die. That's when we start to become irrelevant. And the more and more, like as we get older, and we've seen this in old generations. I don't know that this is going to continue as we move forward, but the older we get, we have seen in the past that, oh, the older you get, the more stuck in your ways you become. That's not necessarily true. We don't have to live that way. We don't have to be there that way. We can we can constantly challenge ourselves over and over every day. Wake up and say, who am I today? Who am I right now? Can I be here right now? He who dies but does not perish shall endure forever. Because you're here now. And if you wake up one day and you are someone else, that's great. And when you endure forever, one day you're going to wake up and be dead, but you'll still be able to be awake. And that's why you endure forever, because you are forever. You are part of the thing that is forever. When you wake up to that, then you have overcome time. You have overcome space and stuff and matter. You've gotten over all of that. And when you can get over that, you will endure forever. I'm going to read this one more time. He who knows men is wise. He who knows himself can see clearly. And I just want to reiterate, there's nothing, more important to me than seeing clearly. He who conquers men has strength. He who conquers himself has power. And strength will fail you. Power is something that is within you. That is that is that's such a, like, I would rather start like from a space of like power versus force. And there's that book, Power versus Force, or Force versus Power. I don't know. And that's what this is referencing. He who conquers men has strength. That's force. You can conquer other people, sure. Whether it's through manipulation or use of arms or force. But he who conquers himself has power. You're not necessarily going to whip yourself into submission. You know, maybe with judgments and other things like that. But that's not you're not conquering yourself through that. You're actually like defeating yourself through that, and you're just gonna lose. And it's not so. Like, the only way to conquer yourself is to know yourself, and the only way to know yourself is to think clearly and not be under the influence of those things around you. He who knows he has enough is rich. He who acts with energy has a strong will. That's the one that, like, that's the line that throws me off. I believe that is he who acts with energy rather than just like not acting, rather than just like allowing, has a strong will. And will, like strength, strong will, it's referencing here, will fail you. He who fails not to find self, so he who finds self shall endure. He who dies but does not perish shall endure forever. Oh, thank you so much for joining me today on Tao of the Day. If anybody has a number between 1 and 81 you want to pick, I would love to share with you. Otherwise, I have a workshop today at 9 a.m. So that's like 2.5 hours from now, a little less. And if you're interested, please shoot me a DM in Instagram, or, any, like, Instagram would probably be best. I'll check that before I launch it. But if you are interested, there are tickets still for sale on my Eventbrite. So you're going to want to check that out. I also, just launched a subscription plan. So if you guys are interested in having one-on-one conversations with me, and being able to, jump the line here on Wisdom when there's people in line, those are things that you can definitely benefit from if you are interested in Tao of the Day and the Recover Yourself work. The Recover Yourself work is all about what we're talking about here in the Tao. He who knows himself can see clearly. In order to know yourself, you have to recover yourself. You have to recover yourself from having lived under the influence of all those other people, places, and things in your life. Old ideas, the education system, parents, teachers, partners. Like there's nothing, you are not defined by anything. That's why he who fails to find the self shall endure. When you know yourself and you change every day, you die to who you were, but don't perish. You don't die, and you won't ever perish. Right? When you can understand that you will endure, you are forever. You have always been. Once that is recognized, once you can see clearly and see that you are forever, you can die, whether it's your personality, your identity, your whatever, even your body, but still will endure forever. Like that's just freedom. And I can feel that in my body. I hope you can too. All right. Reach out to me to join my Recover Yourself workshop a little later today. And until next time, keep recovering yourself.